We go. Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Karen Newman. This is the Saturday Human Colony Hucolo webinar. It is Saturday, the 9th of October, 2021, and we have with us our very, very special guest. We actually have two guests, but our first guest is Kosta Makreas. He is the founder of ET Let's Talk, which is a CE5 designated group that does meditation and different methods for contacting our friends in the stars. He's been running that group since 2005, and it's grown from just Kosta and a few friends to more than 100,000 people worldwide. Actually, and spreading it out, as he explained to me, more than 1 million people that are involved in the disclosure movement. So Kosta, thank you so much for being here, and it's nice to see you again and to catch up with everything that you've been doing.
Thanks for having me here. I love this.
Good. So just before we get started, we'll have Angie. She'll do an announcement for Human Colony, and then we'll come back to you in just a moment. Go ahead, Angie.
Good morning, everybody. I am just advising of our upcoming class in just a couple weeks. It is White Magic Level 3. It is Saturday and Sunday, October 23rd and 24th, 1:30 to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. The cost is $175. It is limited to 20 participants to ensure that everyone has their questions answered. If you're interested in this, please send an email to classes@hucolo.org. I'll get all the information out to you, how to register for the class, or if you have any other questions.
Also, too, I have one announcement. Starting in 2 weeks, the last Sunday of every month, we're going, not Sunday, but Saturday, we're going to start doing Psychic Saturdays, where we'll be doing different readings and working on developing different people's psychic abilities, whether that would be telepathy, reading tarot, looking into clairaudience, clairsentience, learning how to do readings, and also doing readings, taking questions on every topic that's not necessarily ET related, but just straight up 3D related. We'll be doing some readings like that, and also mediumship if it's wanted. So it should be nice, and we'll be able to build on that at least through the end of the year, just the last Sunday of every month. So. Okay.
All right.
And you'll lead us with a blessing? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. All right. So let me change this here. I'm gonna put you full screen, Kosta, so we can see you, and we don't have to see anybody else. Yeah. So, and everyone can see you. So, Kosta, why don't you, if you can, in your best elevator speech, introduce yourself to our audience, because it has been quite some time since it's been 7 years, 6 years since we had you here.
Last time. And a lot has happened. Yeah.
A lot has happened. So.
Yeah, well, thank you, for the opportunity to do this and to be here. As mentioned, I'm Kosta Makreas. I'm the founder of etletstalk.com. I founded that in 2012. And it's part of the larger People's Disclosure movement, which is a network of many networks around the world. And our goal is making contact, interactive contact, human-initiated contact with star civilizations that are here in great numbers. And so we've been doing that for many years on a regular basis, and growing a global community of peaceful human beings who are looking for the next step in becoming cosmic humanity, recognizing that our star friends are here wanting the same thing and are eager and joyful to work with us, to connect with us. And that's what our global community has been doing.
It's so fascinating because, when I first talked to you, Hollis, your wife, was still sort of coming into your work that you're doing, but you were doing everything in a very, I would say, scientific and way with an approach, with a spiritual approach, but really grounded in, I don't want to say calculations, but taking notes and repeating the same type of methods. I guess a scientific approach is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
Where you were, saying, okay, this is our procedure. This is what we do. These are the results that we're getting, and then measuring them and then comparing them with all the different people all over the world. And in your estimation, how frequent is the actual success of contact with these different beings and vehicles that you're reaching out to?
It's pretty high. I don't have any numbers right now. We haven't done any polling in recent years, but the fact is that our movement, our People's Disclosure movement, of which etletstalk.com is a part, has been growing by leaps and bounds. So in those terms, the volume of people has been showing up. And it would not have been growing for sure if people were not having success. So to your point about, how reliable is having success in making communication, the footsteps of people showing up and increasing their numbers speaks to that. Every person is different. There are times when a new person will come into the network and I greet them. And then a week later, after the first time they try to make contact, with excitement, they write to me and say, oh my God, look at what happened. Other people say, I've been doing this for a few months, nothing. And then I hear that they've succeeded. It seems that sooner or later, with some persistence and with a kind of a purity of purpose, everyone has an equal chance to succeed.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned, and I think that I watched an interview with you somewhere, and you said that purity of purpose is the common denominator with the success. Can you speak a little bit about that?
That what underlies all that is the fact that the civilizations that we're contacting that are from the stars, there's a spiritual component to all this. At best, maybe they're neutral about us. No, not at best, but at the least, they're neutral about us. But at best, they're very actively engaging and have had their own spiritual evolution. And what that means is they've told us that they love us. Now, let's start with that. If we want to connect with them on an equal basis, why not send our love? Why not send our goodwill and our intentions, our open heart, open mind? It's okay to be skeptical in a healthy way, but in the end, if your mind is open, you're going to make contact and you keep trying. So that's what I mean is our purity of purpose helps us match their vibration. They can meet us halfway. Some of them are interdimensional. Some of them aren't physical. Some are. But what we have in common with those that we really want to keep connection with is the heart. It's the greatest instrument. People will use radios, will use chanting, ritual, different means to get themselves into like a peaceful, wonderful, loving state within themselves and with the group that they're a part of, trying to make contact. And that's fine, because we human beings, we like something to set the mood and the atmosphere for all of us to join with each other, and that's great. But in the end, what it comes down to is all of those different things, if they help us get a higher vibration, open our hearts, and genuinely with peace invite our star friends to meet us halfway, that is the core of it right there. As different things may get us there, but that's the core, and that's where we have the best kinds of contact and best affirmations of love. There have been even been healings that have happened to people as they've worked with our star friends. So I hope that gets to the core of
Yeah, it does. It makes me wonder, is there a specific place in the world or several places in the world that would say have more activity from your experience, not from what we hear from everybody else, but does it tend to be places like Sedona and Mount Shasta, or could it be, anywhere? I mean,
Yes, it can be anywhere. I have people literally all over the world, from little islands in the middle of the Pacific telling me they've got flyovers of their house to villages in Yugoslavia. Is Yugoslavia still a country? I don't know my history, so pardon me,
Serbia.
but
No, I think.
things have changed
Syria.
so much.
Yeah,
But
I know.
I'm trying to make my point is, no, they look on us as humans. And I'll tell you something too, that it used to be kind of mythic common wisdom that they don't show up around airports and stuff, too much air traffic. We've had that happen in my own backyard by an international airport, amazing contact. So my point is, it can happen anywhere. Maybe some places are more likely. If there's a military presence that is hostile to them, there may be less activity because they take into account the safety of us, of contacting us. So they may dial it back or not. So I'm saying it's all over the map, quite literally all over the map. In 2010, when our global CE5, when I founded the global CE5 initiative, I contacted my star friends. Yes, we do talk. It's telepathy, and anybody can do it who wants to. And to your point, I'm trying to flesh out the answer here to what you want to know. I asked them at that time in 2010, hey, there's a lot of people out here in the world that want to contact you. Would it be of any benefit to your greater plans, whatever those are, for approaching us as humanity, if someone were to organize a lot of these people on a regular basis to come together? And they said yes. They asked something very simple. They asked to have us build as many create as many ET contact teams as possible in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible. They said that as they were asked to show in more places in the skies all over the world, they would show up in more places. And then more people would see them and give them permission to show up in even more places where even more people would see them. And they call this a virtuous circle, and it's an organic growth. And that's, in fact, how our movement has grown. And so I asked them at that time, well, okay, that's a good formula. I'm a formula kind of guy. You just gave me some definite instructions. Going to get on it, going to start organizing people and doing this every month and encouraging people to do it as often as they want. But at least we'll get together as a global group for the global CE5 on a Saturday every month. And we've been doing that for 11 years now. We're starting our 12th year. So I asked them, what is the reason for doing this? As we grow all this and more people see you, why? Mm-hmm. And they said, someday a tipping point will be reached where so many people all over the world have seen us and want to communicate with us and wanted to grow, that no government or other institution of authority will ever again be able to cover up our presence. So what I say to people is, the governments and the institutions that have told us nothing's going on there, keep moving right along, you're crazy.
Yeah.
They own the past. They own the last 70 years of trying to cover it up, the world's worst kept secret, but they've tried. And beginning in 2019, my star friends told me that the tipping point that I just mentioned was in fact reached. We have propelled our movement, and we own the future now. That's the people's disclosure movement. And that's the good news, is they have literally said, they gave me an image, which is, imagine a snowball going downhill. Well, we know what that happened with it. That becomes an avalanche, and it's unstoppable. So our people's disclosure movement is unstoppable now. And this is wonderful news to be a part of something like that. And that's why I'm telling as many people as I can that we achieved that tipping point. It's a people's disclosure, not a government disclosure.
Right.
It's not some premier or president or prime minister standing in front of a podium and making a speech to the United Nations and saying, yeah, they're here, but you knew that all along. Sorry, we called you crazy and destroyed your careers and
your life and everything.
Sorry about that, but yeah, they're here. They're not going to do that. They're not going to apologize. No. So that's why in the People's Disclosure Movement, we took this into our own hands starting in 2010 on an organized basis, and we've succeeded, and we're becoming cosmic humanity. There's people coming on every day. Our People's Disclosure Movement is now 1 million people, more than 1 million, in more than 100 countries around the world, making contact in their living rooms, in their backyards, in forests, wherever, in a very humble way. But we're part of larger movement that connects us all. And in our aggregate, we are powerful. So this is the greatest movement in human history, in my humble opinion, or maybe not so humble opinion.
I have a question, because since they've come out with sort of I guess through the pandemic, there's like these little drips of disclosure that came out. Has that had any roll-on effect to you? Has that even increased more? Or has it just been more like, yeah, we know that already, thank you very much, government, for finally? Or do you think because there's so many people having the experiences that they're having to acknowledge? I want to know, what's the chicken and the egg here? Who's the...
Yeah, it's kind of all of the above, if I understand all the things you mentioned. For people who needed the evidence to be spoken to them by some authority, right? A Navy pilot saw this, here's some video, or someone came out from the government, like in the To the Stars Academy and all that, and they showed footage. That served to push people on the fence about this, maybe off the fence. That has had some good. The downside to all that is that the people putting out that information often cast it as a threat.
Right.
So they say, yeah, there may be something that may be real, but be afraid, be very afraid. Don't come into our space. We'll do that to you. And there are people that believe that way. But for those who needed that, the answer is, yeah, that pushed them. For many of us, we said, yeah, we know that. We've had encounters over our house. I don't need your videos. We've had personal meetings with some of these beings. We don't need the videos. But every little bit helps, again, as long as we don't pose it as a threat to them. And that's not the way everyone's going to approach it, but we do that. We pose it as peace and love and all those cliches, which are wonderful.
Did you see the Dalai Lama even commented on how someone asked him in one of his, talks, how would you approach, extraterrestrials if they came? And he says, well, they're also part of creation. You would approach them as equals. That was his comment.
That is wonderful. And I would have expected nothing less of him. And I'm glad that he overtly said those words.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, as far as because you have had contact, you've had meetings, you've had telepathic, I know maybe even some visual contact and things like that. What groups are they that have been really primarily coming through, would you say? I mean, we talk about, the universe, it's huge, but as far as, is it federations of people, of beings, or is it individualized groups of beings? What has been your experience with that?
My experience has been with the Sirians and the Pleiadians, and Sirians, Sirians, that star system. And that's my personal experience, because the lineage I have in my incarnated lives goes back through that. And that's not true of everybody. Other people have had other races contact them. It's all over the map. And that's the way it should be, because it's not just one or two civilizations. They're here by the scores and scores, maybe the hundreds, literally in their millions. They're cloaked, many of them, most of them, and they show themselves when they want to. So the answer is, it's a personal answer. Yeah, that's mine, is Sirians and Pleiadians. But other people have had dramatic encounters with others from other star systems. Is there a federation? Yes. Yeah. I mean, if human beings even get together and form a United Nations, with all our imperfections in our attempt to bring some kind of unity and discourse between us, why wouldn't these star civilizations who've advanced, I believe, further in their spiritual evolution, why wouldn't they synergize their efforts and come as members of federations, or whatever other term you want to use? That seems really natural to me.
So when you said they were here, do you feel like they're here on the ground, or do you feel like they're here? Do you have any direct experience with anybody coming to a CE5 to say, well, look no further? Yes.
Yeah, many of them are in the human form, so that if you pass them on the street, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Right.
And we've had some in our groups. And one of them told me recently that there's at least 1 million of them walking the earth. And there may be more, but this particular person stated maybe that was from her star system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. They can't be open about it.
Do you, sorry, I
Most
didn't
of
mean
the
to-
time. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, because do you think that they know, the ones that are here know that they're here? They're not like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people who say, I realized I was this, but
Mhm.
do they know? I mean, are they?
Yeah.
weird?
Yeah, there are some that are very conscious of their identity. And what you're talking about, which I think is equally valid, are star seeds. Those of us who know we're not from here originally because we have actual memories.
Right.
You may ask Hollis about that when you next talk to
Oh,
her.
it definitely will. Yeah.
She's one of those psychic people who has memories, and I won't steal her thunder here, but she'll tell you. And there are many others who also have memories, and some who get beamed up at night to their ship. I mean, believe me, I've heard a lot. And not everything everyone says is true. You can't be naive, because there's some people that are not well grounded. But I've been doing this long enough and talked to enough people that I either have to believe everybody is crazy who's contacted me by the hundreds with different stories, or they're all getting together behind my back and making things up just to mess with me. And I don't believe that either. It's more preposterous to believe that than to believe that genuine people are coming forward with genuine stories. And that is, in fact, what's happening. Some are conscious on the planet, and some are just star seeds with some memories. And often people will say, I just have a vague feeling I'm not from here. I really don't fit in my Earth family. I've always felt alone, misunderstood. And when I found this particular group, I suddenly felt like I found a home, of other people, my tribe kind of.
So those would be like the star seeds, the ones that are not
those would be the
really
star
quite
seeds.
sure where they're from, but they just think,
or they may know, but they claim that their origin is not originally from here. And that makes sense to me. Again, it's a big universe. Why would if you believe in a spiritual kind of essence, why would our essences, whatever you want to call them, our higher selves, our divine selves, whatever, choose one little planet out of the trillions that we may know of in the universe and just stick with that? Why wouldn't experience be sought in many star systems, in this wide, wonderful, diverse universe? So it makes sense. Every now and then someone will take an Earth body, might stay here a while to learn certain things that an Earth 3D life teaches them, and then move on to another system to learn other things. That makes sense to me too. It's not constricted. The universe is a wide place, and there's an infinite number of ways to experience in an infinite number of places.
So the people that you feel like that they say that they are, have you interviewed them or had in-depth conversations with them?
I've interviewed them, but one-on-one. Some are a little bit more out in the open, but the ones I've known are very quiet about it. They don't want other people to know, and that's fine. I honor that. I mean, I know humans who've had experiences and they don't want their family to know. I mean, just regular people. So sadly, in this day and age on Earth, one has to keep quiet about that in certain circumstances, because it can be a danger to people of different kinds. And yet there's some places where it's friendly and open. Entire families may know about this and support one of their members or each other. Again, that's all over the map. It depends on where you are in your particular circumstance. There's just a wide diversity on Earth at this time.
Without betraying anybody's identity or but trust or anything like that. But is there anything that can share that you've gleaned from their experience, how they got here? what did they, when did they come? What is their purpose of being here other than just walking around and kind of soaking it all in like a tourist? I mean, are they just multidimensional or interdimensional or foreign tourists, or do they have a purpose, or are they just here because they can and it's just fun to do? Or is there a goal? Maybe for some,
The ones I've talked to, there is a goal. They're here to help in some way. The word has gotten out in our stellar neighborhood that our planet is in peril, but it's in promise too. We stand at the precipice of being able to create a golden age for ourselves. As weird as that may sound, if you watch the everyday news, you can't believe that would be possible. But that's what the People's Love Alliance is about, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. They come because they love us. And to some extent, they're here to do different things. They play different roles. Many are behind the scenes. Of course, they can't be open, but they do have a purpose. And the ones that I've been meeting have that purpose. I guess like attracts like, because I've dedicated my life to wanting to help humanity make the right choices to go towards the golden age, and instead of global destruction, which can happen in any number of ways. Because I know I have a purpose to do this, and I've met many other humans that do this, have their own purpose and their own role. Why wouldn't some of the star people also show up for different reasons? But primarily they want to help. They're here out of concern and out of compassion, and they want to help, and they've told it. They want to mentor us. In fact, they told me in 2010, don't approach us as gods. Human beings and religion, this is not a knock on religion, but let's face it, human beings will use a lot of different excuses to beat each other up, whether it starts from the color of their skin to what they worship, to what they wear, you name it. So the advice at the beginning was, don't look on us as gods, because that doesn't work for human beings. Instead, we think of us as elder brothers, sisters, and cousins. We're family. And to underscore that, I'll tell a quick story. Not long after that, and I felt comfortable with that. I like that. It's like I just met a cousin from far off who wants to help me. They want to extend a helping hand. They don't want to do our work for us. We have to figure out how to get along ourselves and do our own spiritual evolution. But they've said they've got a lot of experience. They can give advice. They can mentor if we ask. And again, it has to be with our free will. Hey, I've got a problem. I've hit a wall. Can you help me with this? If we have that kind of communication and connection with them, we'll get the help. We'll get answers that we need. And that's what they can provide without doing it for us, but assisting us the way that you would assist a younger sibling. And that totally makes sense to me. And so after they told me, think of us as family, elder brothers, sisters, and cousins. I was here in the San Francisco Bay Area where I live with my wife. I was driving to Sacramento, which is the capital of the state of California, in order to meet my wife. And I was on the highway, and there's a long stretch of highway where there aren't that many cars. And if you're like me, you're in the fast lane, and you're just driving, and you get into a zone. And I'm sure this has happened to many of you, where you get into a zone on the freeway, and suddenly you come to kind of, and you go, who's been driving this car for 20 minutes? I've just been on automatic.
Yeah.
Well, that happened to me this one time. I was driving to meet my wife, who was in Sacramento on the highway, not very well traveled that day. And I was in that zone. And all of a sudden, in the lane to my right, a semi-trailer truck, a long one, just sped by. And I was already, I was speeding.
How fast?
Too fast.
I'll take your word for it. Yeah.
And but safely, I think. Yeah. But anyway, the point is,
no consciousness.
But,
hey, you said it. So
what alarmed me was the semi popped me out of my little hypnotic zone of just driving, because there's no one in front of me, just goes right by me. And I'm going, that's one fast semi. I didn't know they could move that fast. And that's, big hunk of metal there. So I'm alert at that point. And then it was followed by a second semi not moving quite as fast. And now I'm totally alert and my eyes are looking over there because it passes me on my right, the second one. And on the back of its trailer, the big long box trailer that you've seen a million times, on the back of it in block letters, in the way that you would write the word "wash me" on someone's dirty windshield in the car.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't "wash me," but someone had written in big block letters that I could read easily. And what it said was, "ETs are family." And then it was gone.
Wow.
I'm going.
Did it go so fast that it was like gone?
Yeah. Then it was just gone. And well, at that point, I was in enough shock that I wasn't going to chase them. Like, did I see that? I saw that. And so I thought to myself, this is genuine, unless it's some crafty truck driver who stopped at a rest stop and decided to mess with someone on the road. And so he or she did this on purpose. Okay, I admit that's a possibility. But the fact that message came in that way, just shortly after I was told we're family, I kind of put those together and I go, my money is on the fact this was genuine and they knew that this would get my attention. So thank you.
Yeah, that's one of those. Thank you for the synchronicities.
Yeah.
Suzanne has a question if we can ask it. And then I want you to talk about your alliance, the alliance you were just mentioning.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. Suzanne, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. I'm really enjoying your conversation.
Thank you, Suzanne.
You just mentioned something that's so interesting to me. I've had a few experiences myself passing ETs and not even realizing it until something. And my thought on what you experienced was perhaps it wasn't obviously a semi that passed you, but that was your human interpretation of something that would make sense.
That is totally possible.
And that the message was for you, but it wasn't even a semi.
We have a running joke from way in the beginning when we first started doing our contact. We would be in the sky, we would be watching the sky and trying to eliminate what are satellites, what are planes, what's man-made up there. And then someone would see something man-made, and the joke was, it was clearly a plane that we would all spot, and we knew it. But then someone would say, an alleged plane, alleged. And so that was the running joke, like, oh, a fly just landed in my head. That's an alleged fly. You just never know. Maybe that's an ET taking form. And we say that kind of in a jest, of course. We don't believe everything we see is ET. Right. However, to your point, there have been times where we've seen things that look like plane in the sky. They've got the nav lights, and then they morph into something else and they zip away,
Yes.
And that's happened to lots of people.
Yes.
So to your point, maybe that semi was a holographic projection that they created to do that for me. That's possible. The important thing is the message got across.
Yes.
I may not know the method they used.
Yes.
But the message got across, and the message was the important thing.
Yes, I had an experience last year where I have a very large dog, a huge dog, and I was walking along a path, and there were two very tall people that I passed, and I noticed them. And when I see things, for example, if I see a plane in the air, and I'm thinking maybe that's not a plane, usually I can see the halo around it. So I was kind of getting that from these people. The male turned and he said, "What a beautiful dog." And I said, "Well, it looks like she matches you better than me." And he just nodded, and it was just I know that there wasn't anything amazing happening there, but
right.
It was very clear to me. And I've had dreams about it afterward that, this person wasn't really a person. And maybe it didn't even look like I thought they looked exactly.
Well, other people have had experiences like that too, where it's not so much they hit you over the head and send you a message like what I got, but like you say, there's a follow-on dream or a message that comes or some other synchronicity that is so tied to what happened that you have more information there and you go, okay, that's says to me that my instinct was right. Even though that in the first case, someone didn't hit me over the head and say, hi, here's my calling card, I'm from Sirius. They didn't do that. But like you said, you need to be aware. And this is what I talk about in when I teach people to make contact is they have creative ways to let us know that they're there. It's not just about lights in the sky, which I personally still love, but it's also a tap on the shoulder when no one's around after you've done your contact protocol. Or I've even had my iPhone, which was turned off, turn itself on, like right in front of me, and start playing a cosmic song after I was making contact. And it goes on and on. Electrical phenomenon, telepathic, lucid dreams. They have creative ways. And if we're open to it not just being the light in the sky, that increases our chances for contact. Instead of just looking for one way to be contacted, suddenly you open it up and you go, well, if this happens, that to me is a sign, or if this happens, you increase your chances of success that way.
Right.
Wonderful. You have, you mentioned the protocols. I also have used, I have a copy of the protocols, the procedures that people recommend.
Aren't you a
And,
member of ET Let's Talk, Suzanne? Didn't you say that?
No, I would like to
okay.
be.
Oh,
Yeah, I
well,
would
there
like
you
to
go.
be.
etletstalk.com. I'll make
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
I wrote it down. Thank you.
It's free membership for everybody, just so you know. etletstalk.com.
Thank you. So, yeah, you mentioned the protocols. I live in a pretty rural area. I don't have another person other than Hucolo and some other groups to discuss this topic with. Can I do the CE5 by myself?
Absolutely. And I have to say, everybody seems to customize the protocol. And that's why I always tell people, as we talked about earlier with Karen here, the core thing is your vibration, the state of mind you put yourself in, which is, again, the higher you can get, the better. Love, openness, welcome. Protect yourself spiritually. I mean, send up white light if you want, whatever you use to feel like you're protecting yourself from any lower influences on the earth and whatnot. I mean, do that as well. But yeah, at the core is the love. And then the 7 steps that I give for contact, the visualization that I use, the suggestions I make, people will take and they customize it. Well, I like this step, but I'll change it and I'll put drumming in instead, or something, or toning. Like I say, everybody customizes it. And that's why I tell people, at the minimum, stick to the core. And then if you're going to add some flourishes that are meaningful to you and help you get into a good state, that's great. But start with the core, because I know that if I put this out, 10 of you are going to do this 10 different ways eventually. So
Right.
Stick at least to the core, and will get you results.
Thank you. I'll try it.
Yeah. Thank you. And the thing is, when you join the ET Let's Talk community, I send a lot of information about how you can find other groups near you, and even find company online. Even though many of us can't get together physically. I mean, I have friends all over the world by the thousands that I'll never meet, but there they are on social media or via email or via Zoom. We get together. I encourage people, even if there isn't physically a group next to you, because we're human beings, we like to have people face to face, but the next best thing, if you can't get that, is Zoom or Skype or whatever, and make friends all over the world. We have a map there on the website also, where you can find groups and mouse over the locations and get contact information. So it's all about community and trying to keep people connected. And
Thank
you wanted me to
Sounds
talk.
Organized.
Yeah, it is organized. We like organization. So
Good.
let me change this here. You wanted me to talk about the People's Love Alliance?
Yes,
Karen?
I would. And then we have another question from someone. We can either take it now or after.
Okay. The People's Disclosure Movement is what we've been talking about up until now, which is we the people taking disclosure into our own hands and not relying on governments, because they let us down and they lie to us and they hide things. But in a positive way, we're making and have made our own contact, and we've achieved the People's Disclosure. The other side of that coin, though, is the People's Love Alliance. and I've kind of alluded to that before, which is this is an alliance of human beings getting along together and reaching out to each other to fix the problems that we've made, and we've broken a lot of stuff on Earth. But the fact is, my star friends have told me that in the People's Love Alliance, at least 1 billion hearts have opened up on planet Earth enough that the people belonging to each of those hearts can at least visualize a better way, or want a better way than what we have going on in the world with, starvation, with war, with greed, and all these other things that you see reflected on the news every day. And that was really heartening, because I take my star friends at their word. When they say that 1 billion of us have woken up, that's the People's Love Alliance. And if you go online and know where to look, you can find the groups of all these people who are doing wonderful things on a massive scale that you won't see on the evening news or the morning news, because the mass media is geared towards fear and sex and manipulation. And when people in their millions are doing kind acts every day in organized ways or one-on-one to improve the earth, to bring about a golden age, apparently that's not news to the mass media. Now that could change. Someday we will change the mass media and we'll have a tipping point with that. But for now, I just am telling people that this People's Love Alliance is bigger than any of us know. If you know where to look, like avaz.org, avaaz.org is one of those. There are cultural creatives in their hundreds of millions. There's men and women of goodwill in their hundreds of millions, and on and on. And I do a presentation about that, telling people where you can go to actually see the fact that on an organized basis, there's millions of us working for a better world, but we're not getting the press. So we have to be our own media, tell each other, tell a vision. Television won't reflect it, but if we tell a vision of what we see and link up with someone else in our aggregate, we have more than enough power of goodwill and love on this planet to change things for the better if we focus on creating the future instead of being afraid of what fear is dangled in front of us. It doesn't mean we stick our head in the sand and pretend that bad things aren't happening. They are. But my star friends say, choose the future you want, begin creating the future now, find other people, fill your tank full of good news. And this is where I plug my group on Facebook called Good News Every Day. If you look it up, it's posts of good news that people find all over the planet. Amazing things, new inventions that are healing people, or that are saving the Earth's ecology, that are saving homelessness here and there. There's a lot of good news happening, and that's why I encourage people, start your own group, but come to Good News Every Day there on Facebook and join there. And in the morning, instead of turning on the TV, or maybe in addition to, because you need to know what's going on in your environment, but in addition to that, as you're having your coffee, your tea, whatever, look at a site like Good News, and there's others that are out there, positive.news, et cetera, you can find them. And just fill your tank, your spirit, with several stories of incredible stuff that people are doing, either on a one-to-one scale or on the scale of a village, or an enlightened politician who's created some great policy that's helping millions. The scale is all over of how big this is. And so that's what I do, is I fill my tank with that in the morning. And no matter what happens the rest of the day, I just can remind myself, okay, I just saw something bad happening, but it's not the whole story. There is good news happening everywhere. And I need to be the media and tell people to look for their own and to hook up with others and to spread the news. Because if we as humanity feed ourselves with love and see ourselves as loving beings doing good things, that becomes like a synergistic kind of thing. We'll get to the golden age a whole lot faster through that process than concentrating on the fear and what divides us. That's there. That's been there throughout human history. But we have a chance to change that. And again, our star friends are here to help us. So what I tell people is the People's Love Alliance is working with the People's Disclosure Movement. On the one hand, with the Disclosure Movement, we're reaching out to the stars to become cosmic loving humanity with those who are eager to meet us. And on Earth, with the People's Love Alliance, we're becoming a peaceful planet that they will want to come and land and be full open contact with us someday and give us a lot of their inventions and a lot more of their wisdom in person. So instead of them doing the work for us, the People's Love Alliance is us doing the work on ourselves and with each other while we're also reaching out to them. And that is just a great linkage from the Earth out into the stars. We have all the support that we need with each other and with our cosmic friends. And if I could distill my message down to just that, that's what it would be. It's an optimism that we can do this.
Definitely can. Let me go, because we're just about the top of the hour, so I want to stay on our time schedule, but Sean does have a question. So Sean, do you have a question?
Hello. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, thanks, Sean.
I had a question about, you were saying, like when you get taps on the shoulders, it's like from your ET, the ET family. I was just wondering, is there like a big indicator, like, because we can feel like angels and stuff too. Is there like a big indicator of whether it's an ET or if it's like an angel or something?
That's a really good point you bring up, because it's all about life in all its manifestations, right? Angels, ETs. There are people who believe that they're the same thing. And labels can sometimes trip us up as humans because, we want to name a certain thing. So just be open. It may not be an ET. It may be your spirit guide who's earth-based, who's reaching through the dimensions to do that. What I would say is if you get any kind of indication that you've just been contacted by some other intelligence, a non-human intelligence, ask questions. The next thing you should say is, okay, I felt that, or I saw that picture you just gave me. Who are you? Where are you? Tell me more. And that's how you would do with anybody, like with another human who just, said hi on a chat, well, who are you? What are you doing? You start a conversation. And that's what I would say the best way to know is that's how that works for you. I can't give you an answer that works for everybody, but I can just give you the idea that there's a process that you could start at that point of forming your own relationship and your own communication and see where it goes and get some answers to that question of who is this?
I've been kind of doing that too, because sometimes I'll get some ringing in the ear and then I'll kind of ask who it is. And then usually I kind of get an idea of who it is, or if it's on the left side, it's more angel. And then if it's more on the right side, it's more like ancestors or
perfect.
So
That's
I have
excellent.
I have been experimenting with it. I just wanted to see what you've come across since you've been doing this a lot longer.
Yeah, you found your own answer, and I encourage everyone to do exactly that. Find your own answer. In fact, another note for you, Karen, is when you talk to Hollis, ask her about her psychic guides and how she knows who she's talking to, and she'll give you her particular approach to that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, go ahead, Sean.
There was one other question.
We have a minute left.
Okay. It was about like schools, like for kids. I don't know if they've like you were talking about like how they were helping us fix our problems and everything. A big theme for me that's been coming up is like starting a school for like kids, but like more about teaching them about their gifts and like just higher dimensional teachings. I'm
totally on board with that. If you know of someone who's thinking along those lines, why not start with the children? The generations, the younger ones that are coming along now are so much more open to this topic that we would do them a disservice if we didn't sit them down and tell them, well, here's what we know. You are a cosmic being. You may go to the stars by the time you leave your body here. We need to educate them. So I'm all for that. I know of one person in our group who in a regular public classroom started talking about this to her, like her fifth graders, young children. This wasn't like some special school. This was a public school. And the kids got real excited. And some of them wrote essays and said, I'm not from here. Now that kind of thing in certain jurisdictions can get you in trouble if you're that teacher. But she's still around, and I haven't talked to her in a while, but I'd be curious to follow up and see, are you still continuing that conversation with your classes openly or not? So that's just one example of their openness. Keep in mind, they're growing up in the mass media with stuff that we kind of took for granted, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Star Trek, E.T. and all that. Those were movies and shows that opened us up. This is baseline for the generations that are coming in. Like I said, they're already open. And so we need to just encourage them to do the contact safely and own the future, because it's their generation that's going to carry on what we've started. So yeah, education is important with Gen Z and whatever follows.
Whatever it's called now. Yeah.
Yeah, I lose track.
All right.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much, Sean. So just because we're just a little bit over time, but what is it you have coming up that you can maybe tell the audience about? Also to come over to ET Let's Talk and become part of the website, get on your mailing list. But you do a lot of talks. I was going through, you have so much going on. You're always on some sort of panel for something. And
Yeah.
what do you have coming up that you would like to?
Well, I have my own webinar in about 4 hours, and you're welcome
Okay.
to join there. It's a Zoom link right now, which I don't have off the top of my head. But if you email me at Kosta, Kosta, at etletstalk.com, and just say, hey, I just saw you on Karen's program. What's the Zoom link for the meeting at 1:00 Pacific time in the US? That's the very next thing. And you'll see presenters there, people just like yourselves, taking their 3 minutes and saying, here's what my group is doing, or I've written a book about C5, or I have this cool video I want to show, whatever. You'll hear people presenting about that. So that's the very next thing. In general, we hold retreats 3 times a year in different parts of the US. Well, 2 of them are in California at Mount Shasta and down in the desert in Joshua Tree, and also in Bloomington, Indiana, in the heart of the Midwest. Because of the pandemic situation, the last 2 years, we've not been able to do that to my standards of safety that we would require. We hope that this next year that will change, and we'll be able to do those retreats. So if you come to the website, you'll get on the mailing list, and if you become a member, you'll be told about those retreats, 6 days and nights with 20 to 25 people, making contact and taking classes in the afternoon from my wife, Hollis, about opening up your psychic abilities to enhance your contact. So it's a really great group thing. And like I said, fingers crossed this year we can resume that.
We for the whole world, everybody has got
For the whole
a
world.
retreat or a travel that they need and want to do. And it's time that we can start moving around again. So Kosta, thank you so very much for
Thank
your
you.
time, everyone. And as far as your webinar that you do with the CE5 people, you do that once a month, right? You had said that earlier.
Right. Yeah. And again, if you're on the mailing list, I'm all over social media promoting that.
Okay.
It's that one time, once a month on a Saturday during a 24-hour period, closest to the new moon. So it's a different date every month so that you have a dark sky. But that's where we get together virtually in our imagination with our whole network and link up as friends and send up beacons of light and welcome. And that particular activity helped create the tipping point, month after month, year after year, growing the network of more people participating. So I welcome people to and invite people to join in that activity during that 24 hours. And you can choose any time or any place during that time so that there's some flexibility.
When is the next one of those? When people, is it tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone who's watching, whatever your night is, my night is starting now. It's 6 p.m. for me. So in just a few hours, it's going to be dark, but this would be the time to go out and meditate and and see. I think I'm going to do that. I might-
Go in. Yeah, the point is you can do it from your living room. The contact can be made from anywhere that you feel is safe and comfortable for you.
I might head
so
down to the beach here. sit on the-
yes, that's a
yeah,
great
take
place.
my iPhone and just be ready. So, yeah, great. Perfect. Okay, Kosta, so nice to see you, and I hope it isn't another 6 or 7 years before we talk again. But I hope
Absolutely not. We want to follow you to India and see how you do too, Karen. So
awesome. That would be great. That
Yeah.
would be, yeah, perfect.
okay, thank you.
All
I guess I'm going to log off and have Hollis log in.
Can I tell you what's really cute is nice? I took it as a nice sign is when you started talking about the Love Alliance, you got totally lit up on this side of your face with just a really bright golden light. It was the sun like coming in, but it was particularly trained on your face and really bright and nice. So I just thought, and now you've kind of evened out again, but at one point it's really like
Well,
just here.
there are these French doors to my right that look out into my backyard, and the sun is at the angle that and I noticed it too. Sometimes it blinds me, but I can see where it's lit up right here.
Yeah.
But maybe it was more so. So I don't want to think that was, like the light from above. Maybe it was, but literally it was a light from above. It's a star called our sun.
Serendipitous light.
Serendipitous, yeah. Okay, thank you everyone for nice to meet you all virtually.
And we'll wait for Hollis. She'll probably have to sign. You have to log off, right? So she'll
Yes,
sign in.
yeah.
Okay, great. So
Okay.
while you're gone, we will just wait for her to come in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So everybody, I have in the chat, I have etletstalk.com. He also mentioned on Facebook, he has a group called Good News Every Day. It's on Facebook, a Facebook group that's been something he's been doing for a long time, just collecting good news and putting it out there as a counterpoint for all the other news that we have going on. So we're just waiting for his wife. She's going to log in. They have to change computers. Hollis is a psychic and a channel. I don't really want to introduce her just quite yet, but she does this sort of telepathic communication with the ETs, and where Kosta, which it sounds like now he's really expanded more into doing that himself. But in the beginning, he was very much about, setting up all the instruments and doing all the stuff. And she was really the psychic brains behind the operation. So Suzanne, you had a comment about you making those kind of conversations in your school. Do you want to elaborate on that if you could go on camera?
Just that, yes, I do have basically for, I think, any child, even high school students, I think once you introduce a topic and they do not want to discuss it, you let it go. Because it's just like any 5-year-old. They're ready for information when they're ready for information. So even if they're 16, if they're not ready to discuss or deal with it, you just let it go. But there are classes where they're very interested and they have a lot of thoughts, and they've already identified somehow with the scenario, whether positive or negative. So it's kind of good to have the conversations in class and to have them share their information. And they do, occasionally they'll say, what do you think? And what do you know? And I'll tell them a little bit. I mean, I'll be pretty open about it. So, yeah.
Have any of the kids said they've had experiences or direct?
I think a couple people have. I also have quite a few unique and interesting children that I deal with that are definitely starseeds that don't fit in regular classes very well. And those kids in particular are always interested in this topic, which I find so interesting. A lot of kids that have executive functioning difficulties, they're not able to organize themselves or turn things in, but they're brilliant. They're brilliant. Those kids, I just know, there's a star seed written all over them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make Hollis, I'm going to ask you, Suzanne, to thank you for contributing that, and we'll come back. Hi, Hollis.
Hi, can you
How
hear
are
me
you?
okay?
I can. Maybe you can tilt your kid. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
You're just like a floating head, which is an interesting.
With all the shadows, but oh, I know, I can fix that. Hang on.
Okay.
There. I have curtains for exactly that purpose.
There you go.
Yay.
Yay. Well, it's very nice to see you. It's been 7 years since we had a conversation like this, which is unbelievable.
It is
We just-
unbelievable.
Yeah, we just enjoyed speaking to your husband, and
Good.
yeah, he was sharing with us about the work that he's been doing, the work you all have been doing with CE5, but also the Love Alliance. He talked to us about his Good News Every Day that he has on Facebook, his trying to raise the vibration of humanity so that we have an alternative to fear-based mass media. And it's really beautiful what's going on, and how much ET Let's Talk has grown. I was telling him when I listened to our first interview that we ever did, which was on the radio station, which we weren't even on camera. And at that point it was 5,000 people in 25 plus countries. And now it's 100,000 people and 1 million people worldwide. So what a big jump in just an actually short amount of time. That's a big
True.
growth. That's a big growth. So for the people who are just meeting you for the first time, which I think other than myself, that's everyone. Oh, somebody outside. Can you just explain sort of who you are, what your background is, because you have a varied background and a very diverse background, but also then how that led to what you're doing now, and what you're doing now in together with Kosta, but also for yourself. I mean, because you also have your own projects that you're working on and things that you're doing. So maybe you can give that as I don't want to say quick introduction, because it's
Well,
not,
it's funny because part of me feels like I don't have much to say, in that I'm used to me.
yeah.
So I should back up and just say, and honestly, Karen, I thought you and I were going to talk like a mutual conversation about being psychic, which
We can talk about that, but I'd like for people to know what.
Okay. So
people,
I have been psychic since I can remember.
Mhm.
But that wasn't a thing that was really okay. And so, I went to school, I did really well. And I'm a kind of techie person. So my undergraduate degree is in engineering from Princeton. And then I have a Harvard MBA. And honestly, I've been in one business or another, since before that.
Mhm.
And I've mostly been self-employed my whole life. And I'm grateful for everything I learned in every capacity, and I've been in a lot of different businesses. So, and I still do readings. I like doing readings. And my guides are still here. They talk to me regularly. Like yesterday, probably like most of the people on this call, I get a little frustrated by what's going on Earth, humanity. And I read a story yesterday about what's happening in Ethiopia, which is heartbreaking. And yet another one, right? And I just went, what is wrong with, what is this? And this voice, and I know this voice well, I know, it's a male voice. I know where he is. I know who he is. And it has ever been thus, was the answer. And then I was shown images of basically the Crusades. So like, you think this is just humanity now. No. It's been going on for 1,000 years at least. So,
We just know about it all in real time. I mean, it's all around, we are not, I'm just as connected as to what's happening on the other side of the world as I am what's going on out my own door. It's a lot to take in
It's a
for
lot.
everyone. And
Wait.
yeah.
So my contention is that the internet is a precursor to universal telepathy,
Mhm.
right? Mostly because we all need to learn manners. You know, when we can keep our thoughts
Mhm.
of a higher vibration and more positive, then more people will be entitled to have telepathy.
You
Right?
think
Because
you think it's how do you call it? Do you think it's doled out based on your vibration, or do you think it's available to anyone and everyone?
okay, now we have to get into, you know, how does psychic ability work, right? Which is
Well, because-
fine.
No, I mean, I don't want, I think I want to put a pin in that
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Because I would, just because I'd like to sum it up to how we went from Costa to you. And how,
Okay.
what, because he gave us, he said, please be sure to ask Hollis, like,
Sorry.
some
Okay.
questions about, you know, how you're connecting with, say, different beings. Because I had asked him, you know, what beings were coming through for him. And he was like, I work primarily with the Syrians and the Pleiadians. I know you have had contact with the Arcturians. And that was one of the questions. I think if you were to share maybe your sort of first experience when he was there and you were there, and then we can kind of jump into the other thing.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, it's a pretty good origin story. So Costa and I both watched some videos that were of you know, military people describing what they had seen that was clearly not of this earth, and it was very persuasive. And he wanted to go, you know, up to Mount Shasta on a week-long retreat to make contact. And I said, well, you know, I believe you, I believe all this, but I got a business to run, actually two, and I don't have the time. So go have a good time. And, you know, he did that. Every morning he would call me and tell me, you know, like, ooh, what happened the night before. And it was pretty cool. And then probably the fourth or the fifth night, I was sitting in bed reading, right? And he's like outside doing contact, right? Because it's that time of night. And it was like 10:30 probably. And sitting in bed reading, I'm tired. It's time to go to bed. Put the bookmark in, close up the book, put it in the nightstand, turn out the light on the side of the bed. And I turn around to like scooch down, right? Because, you know, gonna do that. So, and as I have to back up and say, I have very, very, very good night vision. Like better than almost anybody's. I can do things like make coffee from the light of a 40-watt bulb outside my front door. No joke. I mean, there's a window near there, but still it's got to be 12, 15 feet away. It's 140-watt bulb. And I mean, and that's enough for me. I see very well in the dark. I can walk around at dark of the moon without a flashlight. In fact, the flashlights annoy the hell out of me. You know, so anyway, so I turn around and there's these four little beings stand around the foot of the bed looking at me, with maybe a fifth one who was less materialized behind them. And there are these, and I'll describe them in a minute, but there are waves of love coming off them. And so I mean, who could be afraid of that much love, right? There's just love, right? And I don't know, you know, I'm not a huge feeler, but I feel stuff in my aura. And it's kind of like, you know, if you pet, you know, your cat or your dog and you feel their love, you feel them being happy. It was like that. Like I could feel it coming towards me. And, you know, but I was shocked, right? Nobody told me this could happen. Nobody told me these, you know, beings could just materialize in my bedroom. So they were 3.5 to 4 feet tall. They were translucent white. They had large heads, kind of oval, like, you know, pointy chin, skinny little necks. I mean, compared to the head, skinny little neck, narrow shoulders, narrow arms and torso. I mean, like the head was kind of way bigger in proportion to the body than a human one would be. And I assume they had legs, but I don't really know because I couldn't see through the foot of the bed.
Mm.
And they're all staring at me and I'm staring at them. And you know, my mind doesn't go blank very often. My mind went blank. And I heard this very sweet little voice go, "Who are you?" And I'm pretty sure that what happened was they had followed Kosta's thought to me. But that's like looking back at it, right? At the time, I had no idea. Anyway, so we were just there staring at each other for a while. And then I kind of came back to being able to think. And it was like, oh, I should ask them something. What do I ask them? And I mean, again, I was completely unprepared. The only thing I could think was, where are you from? So I intentionally thought to them, where are you from? And again, my mind was pretty blank. So I heard, again, this was a telepathic thing. Again, this very sweet voice go, Arcturus. And the thing is, I had not had any conscious knowledge of that as a place. Or I mean, the next morning when Kosta called me, I had to ask him if that was a place. Now, it's possible that somewhere along the way I heard the word, but, you know, again, I don't know. And certainly, and I suppose I should probably have said this at the beginning, I was not a sci-fi fan. Okay, I didn't watch it. I never watched Star Trek. I mean, I might have seen like one episode in college when some friends were watching it, but like that was it. It didn't interest me. I fell asleep in the first Star Wars and never went back. I mean, that's how disinterested I was, right? I was just not interested. So I had not a picture of what beings would look like, right? So when they showed up, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from there, you just became sort of almost like the psychic arm of ET Let's Talk. That's how I would.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, because I talked to, and honestly, I often don't know who I'm talking to, but I ask for protection before I go into trance. And then, so I do two different things. I do reading, in which case I am consciously there. And then I do channeling and I'm, you know, I won't say I'm completely gone, but there's a lot less of me there. And I just basically repeat what I hear, but I don't remember it. I mean, I don't remember much of what I read either, but more of me is there. And so when I channel, you know, I can't tell you who I'm channeling. I think, you know, sometimes they are higher beings. Where they're from, you know, I don't know. I don't really ask.
Yeah.
I know what good energy feels like.
So you do that. And then what you and I had talked about was talking about being psychic itself and being psychic in say 2021 versus, we didn't say that, but 2021 versus say 1980.
Well, I don't think
even 1970. I mean, it's big gap of time. It's changed a lot.
That's interesting because I don't think it's changed. I just think that people's ability to talk about it has changed.
Well, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. The ability to talk about it, the ability to sort of say that's what you do and that's who you are. And, you know, as opposed to what I remember, and maybe other people in sort of our age group can back this up, is that it used to be you would have a conversation, like a great conversation with someone about spirituality, about psychic things. And you would always go, you know, there's just not anybody I can talk to about this. I'm just so glad to have this conversation. And those conversations were few and far between. And most of the time it was going to the weird bookstore somewhere in a strip mall or off the beaten path and kind of connecting to people that way with, you know, some, you know, learn to see auras, class or something like that. But for the rest, everyone was very segmented. You didn't talk about psychic stuff at work. You didn't mix spirituality and your job. It was really very segmented. And there just came a moment, I don't know, around, 2010 maybe, where it just blew open, and then everybody was spiritual, everybody was on this path, everyone was psychic, people just started channeling all over the place. I mean, it was just, it was a big explosion. And people don't realize now how different it is to how it was, and how not only if you were a psychic in that day, not only were you going to hell, but you were talking to the devil, right?
Well, I'm sorry, the hell thing, I missed the hell thing because I never believed in it. So
I grew up
I
in the
missed that
South.
part.
I grew up in the deep South. So not only
okay.
was it going to hell, but I was talking to Satan.
Oh, geez.
But what I see now, which is interesting, is I see a resurgence of the fear of people coming back up. Be careful, you're not talking to this being. Oh, I see this person has dark energy, and all this kind of, projection of fear and stuff on people. And I see channelers now, people are like, oh, I saw a dark energy. If you're seeing it, you're projecting it most of the time. That's my feeling. And I don't think that there is as much evil out there as, there is evil, don't get me wrong. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'll just say I see a resurgence of the fear that I saw that was sort of pre-2010. That's what I would say.
You have your pulse on that more than I do, because so I had my first group experience in the mid 1980s. Like before that, I was just having my own experiences and not really, I couldn't talk to anybody about them, but I would know stuff before it happened, or, whatever. And, what I say is forewarned is forearmed, right? And so if you know stuff, you should pay attention. Check it out, right? The first stage is check out what you're getting and see if it turns out to be true. But once you find out that, like, yeah, information that comes to me in these ways turns out to be true, and we can talk about that in a little bit. Once you get that, pay attention, even if you can't talk to anybody else. And then, so as it happened, a bunch of people from my college class had also moved to San Francisco. And one of them had gone to law school at Cal, at UC Berkeley. And so he had a bunch of friends from Cal, okay? So there was this group of people, and I'm going to sound, horribly elitist and whatever, but this was, the thing. I had this group, but there was like 6 or 8 people. And one of them had the idea to start a reading group. And the first book we read was 1984, because it was January of 1984.
Okay.
Now, the group experience didn't happen for probably another 15 months. But anyway, so we had this reading group, and we built up some group energy, and we were basically reading novels. Okay. So nothing fancy, but some of these people I had known for more than 10 years. Well, yeah. And the other, it was like friends and friends of friends who became my friends. And, everybody was intelligent, well-educated, grounded, career person. There were not any nutcases. And this is me using this term, right?
Yeah.
But everybody was functional. And we had this experience where we were all sitting in a circle. And the idea was just to meditate. Somebody said, let's meditate together. Well, and I'm like, well, how do you meditate? Oh, just, quiet your mind. Just, if a thought comes, just let it go. Just be open. Okay, fine. So I'm sitting there, and I have this image of a woman riding a bicycle down a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. And given what the bicycle looked like and what her clothing looked like, it was probably sort of like the 1890s. And like, I'm thinking, well, this is weird, but okay, you know, and I watch her ride the bicycle down this dirt road, make a left turn, go down another like dirt road, but small, like a driveway to this Victorian house. And again, it's a farm, we're in the middle of nowhere. And this woman named Elaine across the circle from me starts to describe exactly what I'm seeing. Exactly. I mean, to the way the woman was dressed, everything, to the color of the bicycle, everything. Like, okay, that's weird. And then she kind of petered off, and I thought, well, I'm watching the woman, you know, put the bike in this like barn and walk into the house. And so I described that. And as I describe it, I hear a couple of people around this circle go, yeah. And then other people like, and when my thing petered out, somebody else took up the story. And it went on like that for quite some time. And ending with my death in a fire, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Do you think that was your past life?
no, not the lady on the bicycle. I was a guy, I died trying to save horses from a barn fire. And that was definitely me. And that was actually the end of the story. And it was some years later in a completely other place. I think I was related to the woman on the bicycle. Like her brother or something. But anyway, okay. Luckily that afternoon I was leaving to go on vacation to Hawaii, where my sister basically was going for a like a professional convention kind of. Where I knew some of the people, I actually knew some of the people, but that's another story. But I wasn't part of the convention. She was like, well, I have this room, and if you know, and I have to pay for it, and it's professional, it's tax deductible, I'll let you stay with me for free if you just get your own airline ticket. Okay, I'm there, I'm good. And because it was Waikiki, which meant I could go body surfing every day, which is like my favorite thing in the world. Learned how to use a boogie board. Anyway, but because of that, I didn't have anything on the schedule. So I had a few days to, I was in shock because there were only two explanations for what had just happened. And one of them was we were all telepathic. And the other one was we had all had a past life together. And those were both outside my experience, right? No, like those were both things that I was taught not to believe in, even though I'd been telepathic, you know, since I was a kid. But that was different because it was me and a family member, and I thought that was normal in a family. But these were people, some of whom I didn't know all that well. And again, either we were telepathic or we'd had a past life together, and both of those. So I had a few days to myself to kind of digest that. And shortly after that, when I came back, again, kind of a long story, but I got led to taking psychic development classes. So, you know, and the thing is, I was taking classes and they were very helpful. And they just built on what I already had, because we were required to show up. This is funny. You took a class one night a week, and then you were required to show up 3 Saturday afternoons a month and do readings. And it was kind of like, it was supporting the bookshop, you know, your weird bookshop you talked about. It was supporting the bookshop and the school in a way that your course fees didn't. And it was good because it also meant I got practice. And I was the person that somebody would come in wanting something different, and they'd go, oh, Hollis can do that. What? You want me to what? Like a couples reading? You mean what?
Okay, we're gonna do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
no, you can do it. It's fine. Just read each one and then read their relationship together. Okay. You know, but people seem to leave pleased. And so, you know.
I always call those things like, there's a thing over here that is called the household verse. It's the housewife's like housewife convention, basically. And it's this huge multi-convention hall, like, convention centers can be, one hall. This is like 12 halls of every kind of brand that exists in every kind of store. It's all grocery, it's drugstores, it's clothing, it's just everything. And it's everything at a discount. So all the people in Holland and Belgium and Germany, they never leave their house any other time of the year. They come to this on buses.
Wow.
They come on buses pulling giant suitcases, filling them up with stuff. But I used to work with a group called Oprechte Mediums, which means real mediums. And we used to do readings at these things. And we would, for 10 days, and the thing would go from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m.
Oh my God.
We would do readings like 10 minutes each. And I would do 100 readings a day for 10 days. And it to me, it was like boot camp, because you don't have time to do other thing than just, and usually about the second person in after the first day, you were just in a groove, and whoever, you could see them coming up, and their reading was like going in your head. And I loved it. People always say, how do I, develop my psychic ability? What is the method? And I'm like, do readings.
Exactly. So I worked on the very first telephone psychic line. The very first 900 number, and I was one of their best.
Was that what's her name's? Was it
Miss Cleo? Yeah, she was one of their ads. But it was actually two guys who were cousins. One of them was a really good psychic, and the other one was really more the business person. And anyway, because I was one of their top psychics, in the end, I eventually started hiring other psychics. And evaluating them. And after a while, but I was doing, it was a point when I was pretty broke, and I was doing 4 hours and 10 minutes a day, 6 days a week. So exactly 25 hours a week, which was enough to pay the bills. Well, it was enough to pay the rent.
Mm-hmm.
And, but you do that. It's like, I figure I had to have done, in the 9 months I did it, I probably did 6,000 or 7,000 readings.
Yeah.
And so, and some, and you were evaluated by how, this is weird, but true. It actually makes sense. By how long you kept people on the phone. And if you think about it, if you're doing a good job, people want to hear more. Mm-hmm. If you're not doing a good job, even back then, $4 a minute, which was a lot, 20 years ago, that was a lot. No, more than 20 years ago. Oh my God, 25 years ago. That was a lot of money back then. And, if you weren't doing a good job, people just, they didn't even say goodbye. They just hung up, right? If they were done with you. So if you had, the higher and of course it made more money for the company, the longer you were on the phone. So the higher the call average you had, the sooner the phone would ring, after you hung up. And literally, I would hang up, and in about 30 seconds, the phone would ring again. So when I say I did 4 hours and 10 minutes a day, I literally, it was pretty much constant.
That's what
so I
do.
get it.
That's exactly what I do. And I usually log in for about 5.5 hours, and I'm busy for 4 of them.
Wow.
Yep. It's different now. They don't care how long you stay on. They just care that people give you good feedback.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because they're, so it's a little different. It's not about trying to keep them on. It's about giving them the best reading. And if they have they'd rather someone call and have 3 minutes and call every time they want an answer than to just do it. So it's a little different, but I do that. I literally do that. I think in the last 3 years, I've given something and I'm absolutely not exaggerating. I think it's something like 25,000 readings I've given.
Wow.
It is that many.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really, well, see, and
a lot.
Who is it that says you need 10,000 hours of practice to be an expert at something?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm blanking, Malcolm Gladwell. And I can't remember the name of the book, it's one of his earlier books, 10,000 hours. well, you've clearly done your 10,000 hours. I'm not sure I've done all 10, but I've done damn close.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think the thing is too, like because you think that when you first start, you're trying to like remember what you've learned to apply it. But as you just do it, you just really develop your own style. I mean, I use a combination of cards, sometimes nothing, sometimes a pendulum, a lot of times not. It just depends on in the moment, whatever I need to trigger my my library of symbolism that gets me going. But if I noticed the other day that the most of the ways that I do readings is laid back on my thing like this with my leg up, and I just sit there and do readings. And I thought, I don't think that this is in a book anywhere that you're supposed to splay yourself in some kind of, but it is a receptive.
Yeah, it is. I lay back too.
Like, opened up like this,
I sit on a couch, but like my head is on one of the arms. Like I have a bookshelf next to it. And so I lay back with some pillows on one arm, and then my legs are out in front of me. So I'm lounging just like you. I'm lounging.
Yeah, I think there's some, because they talk about in prayer and meditation, having your hands up is a receptive.
Right.
I just think I turn my whole body into some kind of giant antenna, and have this conversation. But it's just everybody finds their own thing. But one of the things that Kosta said that I wrote down here is that he said that you work with people on how to develop their psychic ability.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, so, okay. So for, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but for people who are not versed in this, there are, 5 different, what I'll call clair senses. And then there's the true sixth sense. So in order of what's most common to least common, for feeling, there's clairsentience. For seeing, there's clairvoyance. For hearing, there's clairaudience. For smell, there's clairolfaction, and for taste, clairgustation. And then the true sixth sense is telepathy, but most people don't want to talk about that. And so what's important for people is to know how they get their own information. And like you talked about using tools to access however you actually get yours. I don't use tools. I know, like I'm clairvoyant and I'm clairaudient and I'm a telepath. And the thing is, telepathy and channeling are the same thing, right? It's just whether, it's direct mind-to-mind communication, and it's telepathy if it's with another human, and it's channeling if it's with a non-human intelligence, right? Or non-physical intelligence. Because, if I'm talking to, my little Arcturian friends, I guess that's telepathy and not channeling, because they're standing there in front of me, but they're not really different.
But do you find with channeling, do you allow them to talk through you, or is it always them telling you relaying?
They tell me and I just repeat it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gone enough, but it's something. So the thing for me about telepathy, and I've talked to a number of other people about this, is that, or channeling, either way, is that information kind of shows up in your head in a way, like the best way that I can describe it, it's as if somebody dropped a wadded up piece of newspaper into my brain. And then my job, I mean, obviously metaphorically, and then my job is to like smooth it out and read it. Right. To me, that's a sensation of telepathy. Like it just shows up there. I didn't ask for it. It's just there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, talking the other day, what happened, I was just in despair and this thing popped up in my head, and it was one thing, right? There was auditory and there was visual. And I want to say it more or less came at the same time, but because auditory happens faster, like you don't have to, there's not as much information to unpack. I got the audio first.
Right.
So I'm curious, how do you get yours?
Information?
Yeah,
I have, because I don't only use tools, just to be clear.
Right.
But sometimes I feel, especially because of the rapidity, is that a word? That with
Yep.
which I do readings, sometimes just to clear the mind, sometimes just to give me something to do, because I can use the same 10 cards and give 75,000 different readings, because it's whatever. The one thing that I've noticed is that, and this is how it's, when you ask, how do I get information? I know that as soon as, even the moments right before a reading starts or right after it starts, at the moment it starts, everything that happens is part of the reading. And I just have such a trust in where my eye falls to, what I hear, the sensations. What I can do, what's interesting is what I do when I give readings is I think I'm telling somebody something that's a piece of information, but the comment from the person is always, that's exactly what I just said to someone, or that's exactly what that person just said to me. Now, I don't know that's how it was, but literally it's verbatim. So to me, that's just, that's just clear knowing. That's just a knowing and a sharing. But it's not a cognitive thing on my part. It's really just the information's flowing out of me, but I'm thinking, oh, this is a great example about what I mean. And then they're telling me. The other thing is I do get just like what you say, like downloads of all of a sudden I just know the answer. And then I do get flashes of, I see something, and the more I look at it, the more detail I'll have. I'll see, sometimes I'll just see a person from, say, here down, or I'll just see a side of something. I've done some work with crime cases,
Uh-huh.
and those usually come in with flashes, usually a lot of flashes. And then the other thing that I get, especially if I'm talking about someone who's passed on, not actually connecting to the person, but talking about how someone's passed on, I feel it physically. I will be
Wow.
dizzy, or I will feel pain, or
Wow.
I will, become short of breath, or really nauseated. Dying is not always, just the slow drift. But if it's someone with cancer, sometimes I will feel the area and the stuff. So it just really depends on what the information is. But I would just say that my body becomes a sort of antenna for whatever information is necessary in order to convey the stuff. And then sometimes if I'm doing a mediumship reading, I really just connect really with that person, and I just feel the love that they have for their child or their friend, and I'll just get personality isms of the person, of how they would say something, their humor, their way. So it's always really different. It's, of course it's developed and changed. The one thing that I can say is just, I'm just open to whatever and however it comes through. And so I don't try to say, well, I can only get it this way. And, I don't really have a script of how it is, but, and then there's some people that you get, and I just know I can't connect to them at all. And I just say, I'm sorry, I can't connect to you. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's, it's not because they're bad, but it may be that I feel already they're blocking, they're already skeptical. It's like, if I get someone, when I say, what would you like to know? If they say, well, you tell me, I just say, I'm sorry, I can't connect to you. I can't,
Yeah.
I'm not there to, do that. But that's generally how it goes. And yeah.
Can I ask you some questions? And
Sure.
this is more for illustration,
Sure.
for people who are listening or watching.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So when you see something,
Mhm.
do you see it in black and white or color?
Color,
Moving or still?
both.
Okay. Is it flat or 3D?
It's flat until I look at it closer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
Is the image any particular distance or range of distances away from you?
Yeah, it's usually right here.
Okay. So how big would you describe that as, more or less? Okay. Like two Polaroid photos together, kind of.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
okay.
literally like right here.
Okay, cool. And the reason I asked you that, and you know, I'll just share mine. Mine's right here, right here. It's
Yeah.
about that big. It's
Yeah.
color. It's generally flat. It moving or still, depending on what is going on.
Mhm.
And mine fades out at the edges. Oh, does yours have a border, or does it fade out at the edges?
Initially a border, but as I get into it, it becomes more like I'm like for whatever reason right now I'm seeing the bottom of like someone's legs and their
Mhm.
feet.
Mhm.
So the initial flash would be that.
Okay.
And then if I think of a reading like I did the other day, someone said, "What is he doing?" I said, "He's pacing around the room." And initially I saw his feet kind of
Mhm.
pacing around the room. But as I went into it more, I was in the room watching him pace around the room. So then there was no border. It was
Right.
me, but not me, but
Right.
I was in the room with that person
Right.
watching them literally pace around the room. And I described the room, and then she called me back the next day to say, you know, I got there and he was in this little room and he'd been pacing around the room. I said, well, of course, you know, but that's how it works. There's just a question there's two questions that I want to ask you, because
Okay.
they came through. First is, I'll get to Jones in a second. The first one is from Swazi. She says, okay, this is a good question. Actually, there's two questions from her. She says, where do thoughts and desires come from? And then are we controlled, or are they directed? She says, I do automatic writing, but only when I feel extremely connected. That's what she said.
Huh. Well, I mean, for each person, it's different. Which is kind of my point.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you or
Yeah.
her how this happens. What I will say is that, I mean, I'm pretty clear we each have a higher self.
Mhm.
And so might be coming from your higher self, or it might be coming from somebody else. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
You know, I mean, for myself, I can tell what's me versus what's information from not me.
Mhm. Right.
But that, and it's just because of how the information comes. But the point, and the reason I asked you, and the reason I described how I get my information, is that each person's way of getting information is unique, right? Their combination of clairsenses, and even the very specifics of how each clairsense works, those are unique to you.
Mhm.
So the only way that you can know that is to work with it, and eventually it'll be clear.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
This is a good question. And I have a feeling about how I would answer this, but I think it's a good question. She says, is it true that we're constantly changing our past based on our present and future? So is it that our past lives are not set in stone?
Okay, I'll answer what I think, and then you answer what you think.
Okay.
My sense is that in what I will call the real reality, all time is the present.
Mhm.
And so what we refer to as past lives aren't really past. They're going on simultaneously with this one, and therefore they're changeable. Now, in physical reality here, I think there probably is a past, but that's here. Anyway, what would you say?
Well, I was going to say a lot the same. And I was just going to say that as we change, I believe that as we change our now, like as we change our present, if we change our present, then our trajectory changes. So there's probability of which way that we're heading. And then even in the past, there would be probability to where we were going to. Now you can change your memory of the past or what you believe about your observation of the past, but it doesn't necessarily change the past. What it does is it changes your belief about what is possible for the future and who you are in perspective to it. So your past life doesn't really change. The only thing that changes is your observation of it. And that is why we have so many different incarnations, so that we can experience everything from many, many different perspectives, so that as a soul, we can experience the fullness of all that is. And that is not only what I say is important for the human, but as the creator, as I believe it, the all that is, that you would call it, or God, specifically created everything to have the experience of everything. And we are sort of the emissaries of that individual expression for, I believe it to be efficiency. It would be different if, in my opinion, like Shiva, who I would identify as my creator name, would try to live every life by himself. But how much more efficient of a system is it if you created all different possibilities of beings, some named Hollis, some named Karen, some named Ian, some named Joan or Susan or Yana or whatever they are, and then they have their own experiences. So you can cover a lot more ground, and there's so many unique possibilities. I mean, look, you are wearing a white thing with a beautiful flower. I'm wearing all black, and I've decorated my vehicle like this, and you've decorated yours like that. And I'm having all of my experiences as a decorated vehicle walking through the world. So that makes it individually unique. And then you have all the experiences that you can have. And then in other carnations, I might be a man, or I might be a this or that or the other thing. And it's all for the sake of experience. So I don't think that your past changes. I think your ability to see it from another perspective, and hopefully in a way that is with clarity and empowering to you, so that you can see it from the standpoint of how what did I learn from this? What can I do differently? How can I, move in a better way? Or maybe you're like, wow, I really just had a really screwed up past, and that's pretty interesting. I mean, it can be all of those things, and I think it is all of those things. I think it's multifaceted. I don't think I don't, whereas all time at the same time, I don't believe our ability to understand it or comprehend it is in any way linear. I think it's multi-level, multifaceted, and even in your epiphanies of what you understand can branch off into even more. So I think it's exhausting. I would just say, be in the now, live your life, and don't worry about the past so much. So that'd be my answer.
A very good and complete answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Coming from an Ivy Leaguer,
Come on, I'm an engineer. I'm not a philosopher.
Yeah.
I just ended up having the experiences I have, right?
Yeah, well, we all do, and we all have, and they're what brought us to this moment. Joan has a question, and I'm going to skip most of the question. She says, I see this, she was in Mount Shasta a couple weeks ago, and she woke up 5 a.m. in the morning. She had light beams coming in that were flashing lights, and she said, she wants to know, are they Arcturian? Are they making contact? It only lasted a minute. What would be the message? What would you tell her to do with that?
Okay. I don't know who they are. Clearly something's trying to make contact with you.
Yeah.
I mean, and the best thing I can say is just sit with the experience. Try and, I don't want to say recreate it, because that's not right. It's more like, if you can, again, from my point of view, all time is the present. So if you can close your eyes and be, back in that experience, maybe it will unfold for you and give you more information.
Mm-hmm. Through meditation.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So Ian wants to know, were you familiar with the harmonic convergence that happened in 1987?
Yes, I remember we all meditated for the harmonic convergence. I mean, like, I remember sitting in a group. I remember the apartment we were in. But like, for us, not that much happened. But yes, I do remember.
Yeah. And I have another question for you. In your little group that you did, the book group, did anyone else end up going into a more psychic field, or?
Yes, the woman who I would consider my best, my best female friend, I met there, and she's amazing. And she has channeled all these, oh boy, forms. So she was a Waldorf teacher for many years, and they do, oh God, there is a name for the forms. Anyway, she's channeled, it's like a whole visual language in, I don't know, in the ethers. I mean, I don't even know what plane, but she channels all these forms, and they can be used to heal. And
You mean
amazing.
forms being drawn forms, or
Yes.
wow. So like a
Yes.
light language, but in forms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Forms, and they are in different colors. Sometimes the same form in different colors means different things, but she's gotten it to where, like, she knows that, let's say a vertical 8 means one thing, kind of like the infinity sign, but vertical, it means one thing, and horizontally it means a different thing. They're
Mhm.
close, but they're different. Or, a trefoil, if they're round bulbs means one thing, and if they're pointed, that means something else. I mean, like, it's really interesting.
And has that become her like life's work, what she's doing?
I think so. I mean, she still has employment. But yeah, that's basically her life's work. Yeah.
That's
and it's very cool.
So for you now, because when we were talking, I guess it's been a couple of weeks ago, you were alluding to some things that you had coming up in the way that you want to work in the future. And I do you remember the conversation? No, we were talking about,
I mean, I remember talking to you, but I don't remember that.
We were talking about how with now I've lost it. I had it right. Never mind. We'll go to someone. I had it in my mouth, and now it's gone. It'll come back to me in a moment. It's gonna drive me crazy now. It was something about you and how you were working. You said something to me also too about, like, now people just call you up.
Yeah.
And you're giving readings to people.
Well, yeah, I've always done telephone readings, right? I was kind of, I don't say always, but I worked on a 900 number. So I got used to reading people on the phone. And so that's how I do my readings is, it's just easier. And honestly, how do I say this? I don't really want people in front of me because it's hard on me, right? If I'm going to be really open and receptive, I don't want their energy field there. Like, I don't want to take that stuff in. I don't, I just want to get my information. Well, not even get it. I want to give them the information that comes through and then let go of it.
Do you find in this time you're getting different information than, say, you would have, say, 20 years ago? Is it still mostly like job?
People ask me what they ask me. So when I started reading, I do the 7 major chakras, which is how I see people and how my higher self connects to their higher self or whatever, or their guides or whatever. And then I basically say, look, after that, you have to ask questions to focus my attention. So whatever people ask me is where I go. I don't just, like you, like, how you were saying, like, you tell me what you want to tell me. No.
Yeah. Well, that's the, do you have any messages for me question. It's like the laziest question anybody can ask, because it's just wanting, I mean, you can give a message, but then the person may or may not be satisfied with the message. There's always a question someone has. And that's what I generally say to people. There's something you're wanting to know about, and you're not giving too much away by actually asking me the question.
Right.
So, because it is an interactive experience, and it is about sharing energy and feeling that person and being able to walk into their thing. I was going to ask you a question. Have you, what's the, as a psychic, what's the weirdest experience you've ever had?
I don't really think of anything. Well, okay.
Yeah, there's always one.
There's always one. Okay. And this was completely unintentional, but I have literally been one with all that is. So,
Okay.
and it's still, and I've only met a couple of other people who have had this experience.
Mhm,
There's no there.
mhm.
It's, I mean, for me, I was just inside this white luminous space. There's, and then it turns out like, and then I was shocked, like, oh, I could still have a thought. And then I realized there were other beings out there having thoughts. And then something happened in the room and I came back. So I wasn't there for very long, but at the time I didn't know, like people talk about God, like God isn't a thing. It's like, we're all one and that's the thing. But you can't, like people, when they say God, they make it as if it's something out there, some other being with some, no, we're all it. We're all God together as one. And that includes beings on other planes of existence, beings on other planets, if you will. I mean, like, we're all one and together we're all God.
Nothing outside
That's
of it.
too hard for people to get.
Well, it's the thing that all that is literally all there is. There's nothing outside of it because even the outside, if there was something outside, it would be included in the all. And there's
Exactly.
nothing other than all. All
Exactly. Except
all is all.
right.
Yeah.
Except like my understanding, and you should understand, I wasn't really brought up with any religion,
Mhm.
but my understanding of human religions is that they tell you there's a God, which is a being outside of yourself that you have to pay attention to or keep happy or something.
Mhm. Some religions say that, yeah.
Okay. But like, or that there are many gods. Now, compared to human capabilities, certainly there are beings that have more capabilities than incarnated humans have. And so I can understand how humans might think that those were gods.
Mhm.
But to me, they're just higher beings, which are, more capable beings or something.
Mhm.
So, and okay, so that was the weirdest experience ever.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a question here I'll ask it. She says, I noticed that when I watch a movie or TV show, my thoughts tell me what's going to happen in the movie, and I'm 100% accurate because it's like I wrote the movie. Do you have
Cool.
a comment on that? Yeah. What would that be? Would that be?
I mean, I don't really have a comment, but like, so what if you, I mean, this is just a question that comes up for me. So like, what if the news were a movie?
Yeah.
Would you know what was coming next?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how can you use that ability in a bigger sense?
Well, I don't know. I kind of think of it like if you're an actor, sometimes an actor's playing a character, especially if they're playing a person that has, lived, and they say they channel that person and they take on their, I think it was Jim Carrey when he did the Andy Kaufman movie. He said he was possessed by Andy Kaufman for the period of time of the movie.
Wow.
And he really, allowed him to play through him. And if you watch what he did in that movie, it's pretty dead on. He was Andy Kaufman. There is no doubt about it. And it's probably something like that, just having, because movies are hypnotic. You're in a very suggestive state, and suggestive states are those altered states of connection a lot of times. And so maybe what's happening, Curious Light Channel, is that you are connecting right to the writer, and not only are you experiencing the movie visually, but you're also experiencing it from the mindset of the writer. That's what I would think. This is a question for you about the ET Let's Talk. Michelle Mullet, she wants to know, will there be an ET mentorship program to assist humanity?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever asked that before. I don't know. And I'm not in a state to, ask that question while I'm, talking to you. That's a really good question.
It is a good question. Maybe that's something.
That's a really good question. I mean, if I were guessing, and this is a guess, is that it's already happening.
Yeah. Maybe all these little contacts people are having is part of that mentorship program as far as how to
Exactly.
connect and how
Exactly.
to deal with them, with them. So Hollis, we are over time,
Yeah.
but I love talking about this stuff. So I could talk about it all day and all night, but I know if you could see my light is going down, it's starting to get dark outside for me.
Wow.
But I wanted to, so if people wanted to have, say, a reading with you, they could come to your website and there's a
Well,
banner. for you
actually,
I saw.
I was
Oh.
hacked.
What?
So, yeah, it's a long story. I was hacked. I was held for ransom. And here's the thing. The email that they sent the ransom notice to isn't one I even go to very much. So it all kind of went poof, and I haven't put it back together. I think there may be something of a website there, but what I would say the best thing to do would be to send an email to Kosta.
Okay.
I think it's Kosta@etletstalk.com, whatever his email is. And say for Hollis, and then he'll just forward it to me. Because now having been hacked, I'm a little leery about giving out my email even. Yeah. So anyway, and now the one that I use is the one that I don't give out publicly really. And so, yeah.
Okay. So for people who do want to contact Costa.
Right.
And give his wife the email.
Yeah. Say for Hollis. And then he'll just forward it to me. And I'm sorry about that, but
No, it's no problem.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Your
It's
time.
been fun talking to you. I mean, it's
yeah.
And fun talking to somebody else who knows this stuff. And
yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's nice. We don't talk usually a lot about psychic stuff on here. We talk more about channeling and there's a lot of channelers. So it's not so much about the psychic stuff, but I think it's a phenomena that's really here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere. So yeah. And we have a function in society just like everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Much love to
very
you.
much.
And we will see you hopefully again soon.
That would be nice. I would like that.
Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Thank you. Now I have to figure out how to get out of here.
Oh, you just close the thing.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So Angie, are you still here?
Why, yes, I am.
I mean, do you see I've got my hair and the darkness are the same color. Why don't you give us our announcements and then we'll have a couple of people do some closing prayers.
Okay. Thank you. Our next class is White Magic Level 3. It is October 23rd and 24th, 1:30 to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. The cost is $175. If you're interested in taking this class, please send an email to classes@hucolo.org. We are limiting it only to 20. There are a few spots left, so we don't want you to miss out. Again, if you're interested, classes@hucolo.org.
Thank you. All right. Who would like to do a blessing going out? Anybody? You just say me. Anyone? Me, Wendy. Okay. Take it away, Wendy. Turn on your camera. There she is. Just the top of your head. There we go.
My camera and my sound. Can you see the water behind me? Standing here by beautiful Lake Michigan. So sending that energy into you guys.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, yuroira e chikrira but the no nora ta e hoyana mara e chitu duira but iana mahai chi ha hoyana nara ta hoyana na e hapa oyana nara ta e chikte uyira ta no iriti. Yes, your ancestors are always with you. They are here. They are blessing you. They also work with your galactic star families. Call on us all. We are always here for you. We love you. We love you. Be blessed.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you.
End it. So thank you, everyone. Like and subscribe. I'm pushing because I'm pretending I'm doing the little buttons. As they say on other channels, hit the bell. So like and subscribe if you haven't already. Next week, we'll be back with Jim. And in 2 weeks, we're going to start a new thing. Maybe I didn't actually with Hollis, I didn't expect the conversation was going to go that way about psychic stuff. I thought it was going to be about her psychic work with the CE5, but that's no problem. It's a kind of good intro to what we're going to do the last week of every month. And we're going to, I think it's the last week. It may be the first week of some months, the last week of others, but we're going to do psychic Saturdays and we're going to do psychic readings. So questions that you could have, we will do them. I'm going to do them primarily. If there's other people on here that want to also do readings, we can see if one person has a question, we can maybe have other people who do have psychic abilities that want to give some answers. We could look at doing it like that. And we will be back. We'll be back in next week with Jim. So much love to you. I want to send everyone so much love. Have a fantastic week. Thanks for hanging out. We went over a little bit, but that was fun. So, okay. Much love, everyone. See you next time. And yes, okay. Curious Light Channeler. Sorry, you're a guy. Sorry, dude.